Section 1. John Helston, a student from London University, wants to know some information about a 21st conference. You'll hear a conversation between John and university staff. Now you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
University, good morning.
Oh, good morning. Can you put me through to the School of Architecture, please?
Certainly. School of Architecture, Professor Dawson's office.
Oh, good morning. I was wondering if you could give me some information about the forthcoming Architecture 21st Conference, dates, enrolment procedures, costs, that sort of thing.
Certainly.
When exactly is the conference?
Well, the conference runs for 3 days, from the 18th to the 20th of October.
18th to 20th of October? Oh, good. I'll still be here then. And where exactly is it being held? Is it at the university, as in previous years?
No, it's actually being held at the Pacific Hotel. We've rather outgrown the university conference facilities, so we've opted for this new venue.
Right, Paradise Hotel.
No, Pacific Hotel.
Oh, right. And presumably we can get accommodation at the hotel?
Yes, but you'll need to contact them direct to arrange that. I'll give you the number for hotel reservations. Have you got a pen ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's area code 07 and then 933 2233.
Okay, and what's the registration fee?
Individual fees are $300 for the 3 days or $120 a day if you only wanted to attend for 1 day.
Are there any student concessions?
Oh, sure. There's a 50% concession for students, and that's $150 for the 3 days or $60 a day.
And am I too late to offer to give a talk?
Oh, I'm pretty sure you've missed the deadline for that.
Oh, really? But I've only just arrived here in Australia. Is there any way I could have a paper accepted?
Well, you'd need to talk to Professor Dawson. He's the person organising the conference this year. I can put you through if you like.
Oh, yes, please. That'd be great. Oh, and can I just check the spelling of his name? Is that Dawson?
Yes, that's correct.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 5 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 6 to 10. Professor Dawson speaking. Oh, hello. My name is John Helston. I'm an architecture student at London University. I'm here in Australia for 3 months, looking at energy-saving house designs. Right. I'm interested in giving a talk on my research at the conference, but I believe I may have missed the deadline. Well, strictly speaking, you have. The closing date was last Friday. Oh, no! But we may be able to include your paper if it fits into our program, but you'll have to be quick. Okay. What do I need to do? Send me an outline of your talk, and make sure you'd include an interesting title for the talk, something to attract the delegates' attention. Okay, interesting title, right? The outline should be no more than 300 words, though. Right. I should be able to keep it down to 300 words, but would 400 be okay? No, not really, because we have to print it in the proceedings, and we just don't have the space. Sure, I understand. And also, can you send me a short CV, the usual stuff, name, age, and qualifications, that sort of thing? Right, include a brief CV. Actually, you can email it to me. That'd be quicker. Sure, what's your email address? Well, the best thing would be to send it to the conference administrative officer. The address is admin in lowercase, in small letters. Right, so that's ADMIN at uniconf.edu.au. Right, I'll do that straight away. Thank you very much, you've been very helpful. Okay, well, we hope to see you in October then. That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Section 2. In this section, you'll hear an introduction about canoeing. Now you have half a minute to read questions 11 to 20. Listen to the tape carefully and answer questions 11 to 20. Have you imagined paddling around on a river in a small boat? Canoes, which are narrow boats and usually hold 1 or 2 people at the most, are particularly well known for being unstable and turning over in the water. But more and more people enjoy this dangerous sport. Today, Cynthia Bocci, an adult education teacher and an addict of canoeing as well, will share her experience of canoeing with us. Cynthia, when did you begin this sport?
Well, I started it 6 or 7 years ago, and soon I got attracted by the exercise. I have to admit that it brings me great fun. It's become part of my life.
So, could you describe how you do it?
At first, I think you need some like-minded friends. The friends who share the same interest with you. It's no fun at all if you canoe alone. Usually, we assemble in a parking shelter near the Island Lake Recreation Area. We pull our canoes from inside the vans, lift them from atop the cars and trucks, and attach wheels to help transport them to the shores of the lake beside the boat dock.
What equipment do you need for the sport?
Well, first and foremost, a canoe, of course. The price ranges from £300 to £700, depending on the material they're made from. The more you can pay, the better, really. Personally, I wouldn't look at anything under £500, but that obviously depends on your budget. You also need a hard helmet to protect yourself against rocks when you fall out of the canoe, and believe me, that is very likely to happen. Because of this, it's a must for a beginner to wear a wetsuit. Oh, bathing suits don't work really. Sometimes a life jacket is a necessity in case you fall into water and no one else is nearby.
Maybe many can't understand your passion for the dangerous sport. Do you think it's all worth it?
Absolutely. I just love it. It's exciting, exhilarating, yet it's peaceful and it's calm. You can work as hard as you want to, or you can take it easy. In addition to having fun, canoeing offers a workout without realizing you're working out. Besides being a great exercise, which is good to heart and lungs, you gain strength and mobility. You build strength not only by paddling, but also from lifting and carrying your canoes. You can also exercise your mobility. Frankly, I never had upper body strength until I started canoeing. Now I can pick my canoe up and carry it on my shoulder with no problem. However, it's not just a workout of the upper body, but also a total body workout. If you're doing it correctly, it's a great calorie burner. And more important to me, paddling isn't strictly about exercise. It's as much about the peace and relaxation that comes from being out on the water. I saw it described on a brochure as liquid medicine for the soul, and that is so accurate. It allows you to take a mental break from your ordinary routine. It's a lot of fun and you meet a lot of great people. We connect on the waterways by responding to email invitations, posting on websites and club announcements. Also, it's a great way to get an up-close view of nature. You can sneak up on wildlife. I've been right next to ducks, deer, and all kinds of birds. You just get a different view than you can get on land. I especially enjoy camping by canoe. It's like backpacking without having to carry a pack on your back. You can put everything you need in the hatches of the canoe. Have you experienced this kind of camping? Well, whatever you say about this sport, it's never dull. I think on one level it's a serious activity and you can become a real champion, but it's a small group who take it that far. But for most, it's a fantastic sport for anyone who likes adventure.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to Section 3. Section 3. You'll hear an admissions tutor at a university interviewing a prospective student. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hello there, it's Robert Johnson, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
First of all, thanks for coming to this interview and thanks for applying to the engineering department of Wesley University. This is a fairly informal interview where I just get to know you and find out what kind of person you are. There won't be any technical questions as we've got all your educational background from your application form.
Oh, that's good.
Now, I know you've applied to us to study civil engineering, so can you tell me why you chose this field?
It's a mixture of reasons, really. First of all, I've always been fascinated by building things. Whenever the family was on the holiday, I would always be interested in the local bridge and all that. My father is a civil engineer too, so he'd always be able to explain things. And it was he, I suppose, who really fostered my interest. I'm lucky as well, because my best subjects at school were maths and physics, which are the ones that are of particular use for engineering.
So you'll be keeping it in the family then?
Yes, my brother wants to do the same thing as well, so you'll probably get an application from him in another 2 years.
Great. Now then, I noticed from your application form that you took a year off between school and university. What did you do during this year?
Well, I'd like to say I got plenty of work experience, but what I did was travel. I went to Australia for the year and spent the time travelling and working all around the country. At the end, I went to New Zealand and travelled around there for a couple of months.
What kind of work did you do out there?
It was fairly menial stuff. I delivered furniture, worked in a pub, worked in a hotel, and worked on a building site for a couple of months too.
Working on a building site must have been good experience for engineering.
I suppose so. I mean, it was interesting to see the brass tacks side of things. And a good engineer has to get his hands dirty, my father says.
He's absolutely right as well. Now, why did you choose Wesley University to study civil engineering?
Well, first of all, I know that the department has a very good reputation in this field. And before applying, I checked out the stats and saw the percentage of graduates going straight into industry was very good.
Yes, we're very proud of that.
I'm also very interested in mountaineering, and your campus here in the Midlands is within reasonable distance of Snowdonia, so I'll be able to go hiking at weekends when work allows.
That's good. It's very important for students to have interests outside of their studies. It helps deal with the stress.
I also play a lot of football, and the university runs quite a few teams in the local leagues, so I'd like to get into that.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 27 to 30.
Is there anything you'd like to ask me about the course?
Yes, the information in the prospectus wasn't very clear about assessment. How will I be assessed over the 4 years of the course?
Well, as it's a sandwich course, you'll be working in industry for the third year, and there won't be any exams for that year. In the first year, you'll have exams at the end of May. You'll probably have 5 papers to sit then. The second year is identical to the first year. You have to pass the exams in these years, but they won't actually be part of your degree. In the fourth year, you'll have to write a dissertation of a minimum of 15,000 words, and most people use their time in the third year, when they're working, to use as a basis for their dissertation. So the third year can be spent doing the hard work for the dissertation, leaving the fourth year to polish it, and study for your finals.
What will I have to do for the final?
There will be 8 papers in all during June, and these will be based on work done throughout the entire course. It's hard and a stressful time, but students usually cope with it. Anything else?
Yes, I'd like to ask.
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Listening Practice Section 4. You are going to listen to a lecture on language learning. Look at the questions 1 to 5. Now listen to the first part of the lecture and answer questions 1 to 5.
This is the first in our series of lectures on language learning. The topic I'd like to deal with today is what makes a successful language learner? There's been a lot of research into what makes some people learn a language faster than others. In this lecture, I'll summarize the main findings of the research into the subject. There are many factors that influence how quickly one learns a foreign language, of which exposure to the target language seems to be one of the most important factors to consider. It's this factor which determines the speed of learning a language, especially among those people who learn a foreign language outside the classroom. There are more people who did not learn a second language or a third language in the classroom, and I think that understanding how learners successfully learn languages without the help of a teacher can provide us with the key to how to become a successful language learner. Let's look then at the characteristics of a successful language learner. Motivation seems to be one of the key factors. Research into motivation has identified 2 main types: instrumental motivation and integrative motivation. Instrumental motivation is the kind of motivation that encourages people to learn a language for practical reasons, such as getting a job or passing an examination. Learners with this kind of motivation intend to use the target language as a tool or instrument to help them achieve a goal. Integrative motivation is what encourages learners to learn a language in order to communicate and socialize with others who speak the language. The primary aim for learners with integrative motivation is to use the language to integrate and identify with the community that uses the language. Immigrants, or people who are married to speakers of another language, are motivated in this way. Although most people have mixed motivation, research into language learning and acquisition suggests that integrative motivation produces much better results and is an important characteristic of successful language learners.
Now look at the questions 6 to 10. As the lecture continues, answer questions 6 to 10.
Personality is another important factor in language learning. One does not need to be an extrovert to learn a foreign language, but willingness to experiment and take risks is essential. Introverted or anxious learners who are afraid of making mistakes find it harder to learn a language. Good language learners will try to experiment with different ways of learning vocabulary or grammar until they find the way that suits them best. Language is a complex system. Successful language learners often design complex learning systems to master a language. They think about how they learn and organize their learning accordingly. They develop their own learning style and use a range of learning skills such as efficient revision techniques, systems for learning and organizing vocabulary, the ability to monitor their own speech, and the ability to plan their learning. Finally, age is another major factor to be borne in mind. Children seem to be in the best position to learn a foreign language rapidly and with the best results. Older learners can also be very successful and become proficient at using a language. Adult learners who make decisions about their learning and are independent of the teacher, who are analytical and aware of how they learn, and who take responsibility for their learning, stand a very good chance of learning a foreign language successfully.